What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to an all-new 3 rounds with Jay. This is on an all-new night. As you can see, it's Tuesday. It's no longer Friday. We've officially changed nights. From now on, 3 rounds with Jay will continue to take place on Tuesday nights. And Jay at the movies will be between Thursday and Friday, depending how many films I end up watching. Really, it's really dependent on that. So Thursday and Friday, Jay at the movies. Tuesdays, officially starting as of tonight, it will be 3 rounds with Jay. It gives us some time to catch up on the past events that occurred in the UFC, Bellator, Pro Fight League, and One Championship, while at the same time giving you the best predictions and breakdowns for the upcoming events, whether it be on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. In this case, we all win. In this case, everything's on time, and at the same time, everyone's happy, including me. So, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, it's 3 rounds with Jay. What are we talking today? We just had ourselves an explosive weekend. UFC 230 just took place on November 3rd, 2018, Saturday night. It was headlined by Daniel Cormier taking on Derek Lewis, the fan favorite, while at the same time the co-main event featured Chris Weidman taking on Jacare Souza. So it was kind of a stacked card. It was a fun card. I will tell you that from my bottom of my heart. This is a fun card. The last few UFC events have been tremendous. The fights that they've been putting together and the fights that the fighters have been bringing to the fans. This is what mixed martial arts is all about. This is why we watch this sport. It's because we come to be entertained, while at the same time we come to watch fighters we've grown up with and fighters we tend to follow, or fighters we like overcome adversity, or at the same time fail while attempting to achieve greatness. So this took place this weekend, UFC 230. We're going to be talking also about the upcoming UFC event this Saturday night, and we'll see. We might have a free round. This might be a free round to discuss anything. That will be round 3. We're going to get to that when we get to that. So sit back, relax. If you didn't catch up on the UFC events, I'm going to spoil them. I'm sure now with social media, we all know what happened. But if you want to check out the fights, there'll be some clips playing in the background. In the meantime, let's relax and let's have some fun. It's 3 rounds with Jay, and let's kick things off with round 1.
Again on the bike. Cold. Wow.
Round 1, let's do this. Let's start talking. UFC 230. Daniel Cormier taking on Derek Lewis took place this past Saturday night from the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden. This was the 3rd UFC event to be held in MSG. The first one, for those of you who may not remember, featured Conor McGregor taking on Eddie Alvarez. The second one, which took place last year, featured GSP taking on Michael Bisping. These 2 events, both main events, featured title changes. Conor McGregor captured the lightweight championship of the world, making him a 2-division champion, and GSP defeated Michael Bisping for the UFC middleweight championship of the world, therefore making him also a 2-division champion, but not holding the belts at the same time. But at the end of the day, still made him a 2-division champion. And in this main event, at the UFC 230 event, it featured the 2-division, the actual 2-division and defending 2-division champion Daniel Cormier taking on Derek Lewis. The question is, did the MSG curse strike again? Was there another title change? But before we get to that main event, let's talk about some of the other fights on this card. And I'm talking only the main card. So for those who were featured on the preliminaries or the Fight Pass prelims, I apologize. We just don't have enough time to go through it all. To kick off the main card, it featured an up-and-coming phenom, a man who was walking in 14-0, a man who was walking in with a lot of hype behind him, a man who was walking in off of a victory that got him into the UFC by being a part of Dana White's Contender series. He previously fought in the UFC beforehand, had some 2 victories, and I'm talking, when I say beforehand, I mean after the Contender series. The individual I'm talking about, and the guy who's looking to make a name for himself in the middleweight division, is none other than Israel Adesanya. He took on probably his toughest challenge to date in the form of Derek Brunson. Derek Brunson is no slouch. This man has taken on the likes of Yoel Romero, Lyoto Machida, Luke Rockhold. He has taken some of the toughest opponents to date, and he's hanged with them. He's had the opportunity to hang with them, but unfortunately he has also failed on some of those attempts to defeat these higher up individuals. This fight, it was exactly as expected. Derek Brunson's idea, Derek Brunson's game plan was quite simple. Take Israel to the ground. You don't want to stand with an explosive striker. A man who, his nickname is Style Bender. And his nickname is Style Bender for a reason. When you watch this man fight, his approach and his technique and his footwork and the way he comes up to attack you is unlike any other fighter to date. And that's what makes him so different. And that's what makes him also so very dangerous. Because these up-and-coming fighters and the new age fighters, we can call them, their evolution and their progression as to their understanding of the sport and adapting the simple punches and movements and making it their own has truly, it's been quite incredible, and it's been inspiring at the same time, because it shows that this sport has yet to reach its peak. There is much to come, there is much to learn, and there is much to evolve from to become a better fighter. Derek Brunson's game plan was quite simple coming into this. He needed to take Israel to the ground. You don't want to stand with this guy. Like I said, his stand-up game is unlike anything Derek has ever seen. It almost resembles the likes of a Yoel Romero in terms of his explosiveness. Israel is the kind of guy who likes to wait and counter and play with you as he's waiting for you to wait and counter. So he could be doing fake jabs, some taunting with his arms flailing around, but at the same time he's working and he's waiting for you to come in so he can pop with a counter. And that's exactly what occurred this weekend. He knew that Derek Brunson was going to come in for a takedown. Hell, there were 8 takedown attempts by Derek Brunson on Israel, and those 8 takedowns were stuffed. They were stopped by some great defensive skills by Israel. See, Israel was tested for the first time. A lot of people thought that this was going to be his kryptonite. He was going to have like the Conor McGregor effect. He comes in with all this hype, but he's unable to stop the takedowns. That was not the case in this fight. He managed to stuff all of Derek Brunson's takedowns, and he hit him with a good shot that had him wobbled, that had him rocked, and then he followed them up with some head kicks, and then he continued to land some strikes. And it was getting quite, I don't want to say abusive, but it was getting quite extreme at one point with the strikes that he was landing. I do believe that the referee should have stopped this fight earlier than it was, and that does come into play come when we talk about the co-main event. It seems like the referee were kind of delayed on their decisions. They would let the fighter take a little bit more punishment than necessary. Derek Brunson was kind of finished from the very first moment that that strike landed on his chin and had him wobbly. It was at that moment that I kind of knew that Derek was going to be done. He was unable to execute his game plan correctly. He was solely focused on the wrestling to the point that his striking almost became null and void. He wasn't really using it to get inside to get the takedowns, which should have been his game plan. I understand that Israel's got this elusive style. He's a style bender, as we call him, right? But at the same time, in order for Israel to be a style bender, you got to give him that space. And Derek Brunson was giving him a little bit too much respect and a little bit too much space, where he should have been closing the distance, holding him up against the cage, and landing some elbows, landing some punches. But I understand that this is something that I can say from the outside watching. Stylebender did phenomenal. He looked great against Brunson. I can't wait to see him take on a top 10 opponent or even a top 5 opponent to see how he does, to see how this plays out. He's got a bright future ahead of him. He's got the talk, he's got the gimmick, he's got the fighting style, he's got everything that's presentable, and it's everything that you want as a poster boy or as someone leading and taking charge of the company. So Israel is one of those guys. If there's a guy that I suggest you look out for, or there's a guy that you want to check out his fights, check out Israel Adesanya. His fights have always been exciting. He brings something dynamic. His style is different from anyone else. He's kind of a resemblance of what a Conor McGregor style is in terms of how he's elusive with his movement. Seems like I'm talking middleweight tournament, but let's move on to another middleweight fight, which happened to be the co-main event to this event. I'm talking Chris Weidman taking on Jacare Souza. This was pretty much to crown or to determine who may be next for the winner of Kelvin Gastelum taking on Robert Whittaker. This was the fight between 2 top 5 fighters, one man who was a top 3 and the other one who was a top 4. Chris Weidman is coming off some 2 successful fights. He was supposed to be taking on the likes of Luke Rockhold in a rematch. Rockhold suffered an injury, in came Jacare Souza, who was supposed to be actually taking on David Branch on the very same card. So here comes Jacare Souza looking to make a name for himself. He too has been out over a year, as has Chris Weidman been out a year by this point. This is one of those exciting fights. Both men came and they were striking and they were giving it their all. Going into the 3rd round, I kind of had Chris Weidman ahead. I felt he was doing a little bit more. I felt he was the aggressor. He was landing the harder shots, the bigger shots, but you can land as many shots as you want. The shot that counts is the shot that ends the fight. And Jacare Souza clipped him, dropped him. Referee, this is the fight I was talking about. Horrible job at stopping the fight. Jacare Souza had him dropped. Weidman was looking up at him, all glossy-eyed, not sure where he was. And Jacare was actually telling the ref, this fight's over, this fight's over. But the ref said, no, no, no. Forced Jacare to land unnecessary strikes in order for the referee to stop the fight. Jacare got the victory. But this is one of those fights, it went 3 rounds, but it was an exciting fight. It was a war. Hell, it was probably the fight of the night, fight of the night. It could also rank up in maybe a fight of the year category. Both these guys came to brawl, they came to fight. 2 exquisite grapplers decided to strike, to stand and bang, and give the fans a show. At the end of the day, Jacare Souza walked out the victor. He looks to probably get the next title shot, depending who wins between Kelvin Gastelum and Robert Whittaker. So it makes things interesting to see where Jacare stands, if he chooses to fight another opponent or to maybe wait for a title shot. Now let's get to this main event. It is Derrick Lewis, it is Daniel Cormier, it is the Champ Champ taking on the People's Champ. And I'm talking about Derrick Lewis, hot balls himself, the man who even said it less than a month ago, at this point, less than a month ago, that he probably should not get the next title shot. His cardio is not at the level where he wants it to be. But I digress. Here we were on November the 3rd. It was Derrick Lewis getting that title shot that he wasn't really looking for. And this fight kind of resembled that. He knew himself that this was a fight where he probably should not have gotten the title shot, but due to the fact that the UFC 230 event did not have a main event, money was certainly offered to Derrick Lewis to take this fight on less than 5 weeks notice, as was for the case for Daniel Cormier for certain. But Derrick Lewis was coming off a tough battle against the likes of Alexander Volkov, in a fight that he was losing until the last 10 seconds where he knocked out Volkov. Lewis is a number 2 ranked heavyweight fighter. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm not saying he did not deserve a title shot. I'm just saying that at the time frame that he received this title shot, you knew with the writing on the wall that he probably wasn't going to come out the victor. You're not going to learn how to be able to stop an Olympic level wrestler like Daniel Cormier in less than 5 weeks. You're not going to suddenly have improved a wrestling game which has not been there for the majority of Derrick Lewis's fights. We know his weakness has been wrestling. And what do you think happened? Daniel Cormier came in, executed his game plan, took Lewis to the ground until it was time to grab Lewis's back and choke him out. It's that simple. It was that elementary, unfortunately. Cormier did his game plan. He barely got touched by any of Lewis's punches. He happened to get out of range, out of the way. Lewis was standing there in that BJ Penn stance. He was just standing still and trying to go for the home run knockout. You could see it in his eyes that he truly did take this fight for the money. It saddens me to see that, but look, good for him. He got paid. He got the money he deserved. He got a title shot, which he probably wasn't going to get anytime soon. So he had the opportunity. He always had that puncher's chance. He could have knocked out Cormier. He's always dangerous. I'm not taking away from Cormier's victory. He too came in on less than 5 weeks notice to take on a dangerous killer in Derrick Lewis. He executed his game plan magnificently. AKA has been on a roll so far, and AKA is Daniel Cormier's camp. Khabib picked up a victory October 6th. Daniel Cormier picks up a victory on November the 3rd, defending his championship belt. That was UFC 230. It was chock full of finishes, chock full of exciting fights. It's an event that is worth watching, as was UFC 229. This is great. Let's keep the ball rolling with these great events. With that done, we've gone way over time on this one. So let's get ourselves to round number 2, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, let's do this, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking round 2. We're talking UFC Fight Night 139, taking place from the Pepsi Forum, live in Colorado. This is a hellacious event. This is gonna be an event of finishes, and I guarantee this. Hell, the main event is just exquisite. The main event has Chang Sung Jung, the Korean effing zombie, taking on Yair Rodgriquez. If you've never seen any of these two men compete, do yourself a favor. Stop this video, go to the top on YouTube, look up the Korean Zombie, and look up Yair Rodriguez's fights, and tell me that these are not two of the most exciting fighters in the featherweight division today. And I don't mean any disrespect to the likes of Max Holloway, Frankie Edgar, and to the man who's taken on Max Holloway, Brian Ortega. But these are some of the most exciting and crowd favorite fighters there are. On this card, we've got Cowboy Cerrone taking on Mike Perry. We've got Raquel Pennington taking on the former featherweight champion, Jermaine Randamie. We've also got Joseph Benavidez taking on Ray Borg. Let's talk about this fight. Joseph Benavidez, he's been out for quite some time now. He holds a victory over Henry Cejudo, the current UFC flyweight champion. Ray Borg is a former flyweight contender. He was one of the men who was involved in the incident that took place on the Conor McGregor bus. He happened to get some glass in his eye and was forced off that event. He's now coming in and he's taking on the tough test of Joseph Benavidez. For these two men, this is a fight that moved them into contention. Joseph Benavidez finally has an opportunity to get another crack at the UFC flyweight division. I say that because Demetrious Johnson is no longer there. Demetrious Johnson holds 2 victories over Joseph Benavidez. So by doing the math, it would make no sense for them to have a third fight. But at the same time, Benavidez currently holds himself a victory over the current champion. So there is something to be said that if Joseph Benavidez can get a victory over Ray Borg, and maybe get another victory over another top contender, or maybe he doesn't need another victory, he can put himself into contention, and he has a legitimate argument as to why he deserves to face the likes of Henry Cejudo next. Ray Borg, he's coming off a victory in his last fight. He's been looking good since the loss to Demetrious Johnson. He now wants to also claim a reason. He wants to announce to the world that I am here and I want myself another opportunity at the title. The fight that you saw against Demetrious, that was a fluke. That just didn't happen. Give me Cejudo. Let's make things right. Let's get me that title. This is going to be a tough stand-up fight. I truly do believe this fight will be a stand-up fight, even though Joseph Benavidez has the great wrestling background. Ray Borg has an all-around background where he can take it to the ground, sub you, or he can strike with you. But this is going to be a stand-up fight. The question now becomes, who is the battle-tested veteran? Whose chin is going to uphold? Whose body is going to uphold? Who, at the end of the day, has taken the most punishment in their career? I'm going to go down and I'm going to say that I think Joseph Benavidez is going to be the quicker of the 2 strikers. He's going to be the more elusive of the 2 fighters, and he's going to probably eke out a decision in this fight. I know I said this was going to be an event of finishes, but if there's going to be a decision, I am predicting that it will more or less likely occur with the Joseph Benavidez fight and then Ray Borg. And I'm truly predicting a Joseph Benavidez victory due to the fact that his stand-up and speed will be too fast for Ray Borg. Other than that, like I said, we got the Cowboy Cerrone, who was always a fan favorite, taking on Mike Perry, 2 Mike Winkeljohn, Greg Jackson fighters. Greg will be in the corner of Donald Cerrone, while Mike Winkeljohn will be in the corner coaching Mike Perry. So this is going to be one of those interesting fights. It's camp versus camp, same camp going on here. Some bad blood, but for the fact that these 2 camp fighters, these 2 not friends, but these 2 guys who train out of the same place, are fighting one another. Look, Mike Perry's got these heavy hands. Donald Cerrone has always got the skill. He's always been a slow starter. He's got the wrestling. He's got the submission, something that Mike Perry is not too strong on. He's got the striking. But Cerrone's weakness, as of late, has been in the striking department. He leaves his body open for body strikes. It can't take that much punishment. He tends to get dropped and finished. His chin is not where it used to be with the amount of fights he's fought. This guy at one point was fighting 5 to 6 times a year. So that just shows to you that that's a lot. That's a lot of punishment your body takes. Whether it be victories or losses, that's a lot of fights. Even for a fighter at the likes and the quality and the caliber of Donald Cerrone. This is going to be a fight really, this is going to be a fight I'm not going to pick. It's too tough to pick. They're both teammates. Like I said, Cerrone's got that weakness where he tends to leave his body wide open to get striked. Mike Perry loves to be in those slugfests, but at the same time, I'm not going to say he's a non-intelligent fighter, but he doesn't have the all-around skills to compete with the likes of a Donald Cerrone. And Donald Cerrone, if he was in his prime, I would pick him in a heartbeat over the likes of a Mike Perry. It just happens to be that Donald may be on his way out. He's had some tough losses to the likes of Darren Till, where he was finished. He lost also to the likes of Robbie Lawler. He went to war with Matt Brown. So he's been in his wars over the last couple of years. The question now is going to be, where does he stand in this division? Where does his chin stand? How is his body going to hold up? Is he going to be able to go with the likes of a younger Mike Perry? How much has Mike Perry improved also over the last couple of his fights? Mike Perry's one of those guys, like I said, he loves to strike. He's got that background, but he has no wrestling. He's got no grappling game. He's got no submission. He's got no jiu-jitsu. He's probably got the bare minimum in that category compared to the likes of a Donald Cerrone, who has several submission victories, several KO victories. So it's going to be a back and forth fight, and this is going to probably, it's tough to say, but this is actually, I'm going to say, this is going to be my pick for fight of the night. And if it's not fight of the night, it will most definitely be a close second. And it will be a close second to this main event that I'm talking about. And that is Chang Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie, taking on Yair Rodriguez. This is going to be a fucking fight. This is going to be a war between two elite level strikers. Two straight savages. Chang Sung Jung happened to be the first ever man to attempt and to secure a twister in the UFC, and he did it over the likes of a Dustin Poirier, who was a legitimate fighter, who was a man who was supposed to have fought on the UFC 230 card against the likes of a Nate Diaz. Chang Sung Jung has got it all. He's got the wrestling, he's got the submission skills, but in this fight, he's going to come to strike with the likes of Yair Rodriguez. Now, Yair's got that elusive style that I was talking about when I was bringing up the likes of an Israel Adesanya, sorry. He's got that same style. He's got that Muay Thai background. He has got that movement where you have got to be on him at all times. See, Frankie Edgar had an easy time with him, and I say easy time with him because of his wrestling. He was able to ground Yair Rodriguez. He was able to stop Yair from using his incredible distance and striking ability. What he did to the likes of a BJ Penn when they competed was just unjust, and it was unfair to watch. He outclassed the likes of a BJ Penn. Now, mind you, BJ Penn was on the way out, so it was unfair to match him with the likes of a Yair Rodriguez, who was just too skilled in the terms of a striking department. I don't care how many times BJ thinks he's going to come back stronger than ever. You're never going to be the same guy you were when you're walking in a fight at the age of like 38. Okay? So this is one of those fights where I'm saying if it's not the fight of the night, it will be a close second fight of the night or fight of the year at that point. Both men are going to come to do war. Both men are going to come to do battle. The question is going to be is how does Yair use his distance? How is he able to stay away from Chang Sung Jung's incredible pressure? I'm telling you, this guy has pressure. If you ever saw him take on the likes of Leonard Garcia, which is, they're two fights, which are two straight savage fights, two straight brawls, wars, whatever you want to call it, some of the most exciting matchups you will ever see today. This guy took everything Leonard Garcia gave him, and he kept coming forward. And I mean, shot after shot after shot, he just kept coming and landing those strikes. He didn't give a shit how many times you hit him in the face. This is going to be a matchup where if he can come in and close that distance, Yair's going to have some hard time getting away from him and landing these elusive strikes and landing his flashy spin kicks, jumping side kicks, body kicks, spinning elbows, and all of this. If Chang Sung Jung comes up directly in his face and does what he does, which is his nickname, the Korean Zombie, if he comes up to you like a zombie, it's going to be a tough night for Yair. So he's going to have to use that distance, and he's going to have to find himself not backed up against the cage. He's going to have to find himself circling around in order to finish Chang Sung Jung. Who do I think is going to take this victory? Is it going to be the former title contender Chang Sung Jung, or the up-and-coming Yair Rodriguez, who's looking to come back into the UFC after being fired, let go, whatever, being brought back, missed his last opportunity to fight due to an injury, but now he's stepping in on short notice due to Frankie Edgar's injury to take on a monster, a zombie. Look, this is another fight like the Donald Cerrone fight, which is a tough fight to pick. But from the top of my head, with the stats going on, with all of it that's being said and done, I'm going to go with Yair Rodriguez. I think his elusive style is going to pose a question and a problem for Chang Sung Jung. He's fought some guys that have liked to stand in front of him and like to bang, which has made his fights up his alley. So this is going to be a fight where Yair Rodriguez is going to have to now confuse Chang Sung Jung and finish him. This is going to be a finish. This is not going to decision. This is going to be a war to the point where one of these two guys are not going to be able to stand. One of these two guys are actually going to get knocked out. And I'm predicting Yair Rodriguez does it in some of the most flashiest and exciting fashion you will see to date. Once again, I've gone over our 5-minute time frame. We're going to probably cut short the next portion of this, which I said was going to be a free round. I'm going to get right to it. We're going to jump right in this real quick. We're going to round 3, ladies and gentlemen.
T-Mobile Arena, 2 former world champions.
Okay, it's round 3. It's the Spitfire round. It's the free round. It's anything goes. Let's discuss what's going on. So I want to talk about something that's coming up in the month of November. I'm talking Tito Ortiz taking on Chuck Liddell, part number 3. It's the fight that nobody asked for. It's the fight that's being promoted for the first time by Golden Boy Promotions, a boxing promoter. Who is Golden Boy Promotions? For those of you who don't know, this is Oscar De La Hoya. It's his promotion company, and he's jumping in the frame of mixed martial arts. He's giving this a shot, and he's giving this a shot with two legends, 2 former UFC fighters, 1 former Bellator fighter, 1 guy who's been the world champion and the longest reigning world champion until John Jones took that claim, Tito Ortiz, against a man who has defeated him 2 times, one of the most exciting fighters. He is the Iceman. He is Chuck Liddell. He is coming back from his retirement. The last fight he took on was against the likes of Rich Franklin. Tito Ortiz's last fight he had was against the likes of Chael Sonnen, I believe. I believe that was his last fight, and he won that fight. He won that fight, went out on his shield. He went out with a victory. He submitted Chael Sonnen with a guillotine, one in which apparently Chael did not tap or whatever. It doesn't matter the nonsense that was. I'm a Champ fan, so we'll just leave it at that. So it's Tito Ortiz taking on Chuck Liddell in a fight that no one's asked for. Like I said, these are 2 guys that are way past their prime. Tito's always in shape. Tito's always been good to go. Even in the fights that he's had in Bellator, he looked good. Chuck is a guy whose chin has been battle-tested. It has been worn down. It has been beaten. And the reason I'm saying this is because he's walked in all his fights. And all his fights he's walked in has just been to stand and bang. Was a former wrestler. He's got that wrestling background, but he was the kind of guy who used that wrestling in reverse. He was the pioneer in what it was called using the wrestling in reverse. You'd shoot down for a takedown, he'd stuff it in order to get you back to standing because he knew he got the power in his hands to finish you. This is a fight that I also do not agree with that should be taking place. These 2 guys don't need to be taking any more punishment. Hell, they don't even need any more of the money, right? I know Chuck seems to think in his head that this is his comeback. He's going to come back, beat Tito, get another fight, and then fight John Jones. And this is not a joke. You can look this up online. This is something that Chuck truly believes in. But for Tito, this is a fight that he just wants to get revenge. He wants to get those 2 losses erased from his memory and to say, listen, I beat you, Chuck, and I beat you on this given night, and not only did I beat you, but I knocked you out. That is what Tito's coming to do. He's coming to finish Chuck Liddell. He doesn't care about the decision, and he doesn't care about the submission. He's coming to embarrass Chuck Liddell and to say, you should have stayed retired. This is not your sport anymore. This is my world. Tito's another one of those guys who's retired about 15 times, come out, lost, come out, won. He's been all over the place. But this fight for Golden Boy, I say that this is the fight that nobody wanted because look, Golden Boy, if you want to come out right off the gate, right off the bat, and you want to give the fans a reason to tune in to watch this fight, you're not doing it with this card. You got an undercard that is filled with some notable UFC and former UFC and former Bellator names, sure, but these are not people that the general public wants to pay for. Even the hardcore fan is looking at this card, and the reception that it's gotten has kind of been like a backlash. Like, you're asking me to pay for this pay-per-view event for fighters that are way past their prime and fighters that we don't really care enough to want to pay for them. You're not giving us a name. You're not giving us a Conor McGregor or an Anderson Silva, or even Anderson Silva is a tough sell at this day and age. And this day and age with the digital media, unless you're not connected with your fans, and unless you're not giving them a reason to want to watch you, there is no reason for us to pay our hard-earned money for. And this is the case with the Tito and Chuck Liddell fight. These two guys, some are active on social media, but they're not to the point where you were probably going to get close to 1 million buys. Heck, you'll even be lucky if you could generate over 150,000 buys. And that is me being generous. And that is the minimum that I put it at, 150,000 buys. If they can even get past 50,000 buys, that is fantastic for them. And I'm not shitting on Golden Boy promotion. I do want there to be more than one promotion out there. I'm happy there's Bellator. I'm happy there's one championship. I'm happy that there's Pro Fight League. I'm happy there are other opportunities for these fighters. I'm happy there are other options and other ways that these fighters can make money. As I'm happy that there is ACB over in Russia, that there is Titan FC, that there is TKO over in Montreal, in Canada, Quebec, wherever it's taken place. These organizations exist for a reason, and it's to help the fighters get paid. For Golden Boy Promotions, they made it very clear this is going to be a one-off event, and depending on how well it does, they're going to take the next step. And if you're going to have a one-off event, this is not the event that you should be having a one-off event for. You should be bringing us something. If you wanted to make this event, at least attempt to bring us a cross-promotion fight. Attempt to bring us a fight that is not 25 years past its prime, 25 years past the date that people wanted to see this. Bring us a fight that people want to see in this day and age. Hell, I wouldn't have even cared, and this is stupid as hell, had you brought in the likes of a Logan Paul and KSI and had him do #2 on the Golden Boy undercard or something. But give people recognizable names to this generation. Not to my generation, not to the generations past. See, we're not going to tune in. See, we're the hardcore fans. And the majority of my generations past are not going to tune in to watch a Tito Ortiz and a Chuck Liddell unless you're truly fans of these two fighters. I'm a Tito fan because Tito's the reason that I got into the sport. From the day that he defeated Guy Mezger and he did the taunt and he pointed the fingers to Ken Shamrock, I was on board Tito Ortiz because he was, in my mind, the Stone Cold Steve Austin of the UFC. He did not give a damn, and he was not going to follow your rules or play by your game. He was coming out and he was coming to take names, kick ass, and make a name for himself. But Tito was past his prime. Now I'm gonna watch this fight because I watch almost anything of mixed martial arts. But to the true hardcore fans and to the casual fans, this is a tough sell. You are not giving me enough of a reason as to why I should watch this fight. Hell, the promotional material to this fight could literally be, it is Chuck Liddell, 2-0, 2 knockouts, to Tito Ortiz taking on a man who lost twice and is looking for revenge. Is that the selling point? Like, you need to tell me what the selling point of this fight. There's bad blood. We got that. They fought twice. Chuck's won twice. Give me more. Give me a reason. Listen, Golden Boy, you've got, I think, until, if I'm not mistaken, this event is taking place November 24th. You've got until November 24th to sell these fans, and so far we are November the 4th when this is taking place. The recording, this will go live on November the 6th, and we have yet to see any true promotion. They have constantly been juggling the card around back and forth. They're trying to figure out what this event is going to look like, how it's going to play out. You've not done the right moves. You've not given the fans enough of a reason as to why to tune into this fight. The UFC is stacking its last couple events up. So people are saving money to watch these events. You got John Jones coming back. You got Chris Cyborg fighting. You have got the likes. Who am I missing here? Max Holloway, Brian Ortega. You got Shevchenko taking on Joanna Jędrzejczyk for the championship belt. You've got all these fights lined up for the end of the year, and you want your fans to spend their hard-earned money on a Tito Ortiz Chuck Liddell fight, and on top of that, you got a Pro Fight League event in December. You've got Bellator events that are free on Spike TV, Paramount Network. It's a tough sell. You guys have got about 3 to 4 weeks to come up, 3 weeks actually, to come up with a card, to come up with some promotional material, because right now I'm not sold. I may be watching it, but the rest of the world, you're going to have to do a lot more to get to than just a Tito Ortiz Chuck Liddell fight. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. This has been a 3 Rounds with Jay. This has been a No Respect Media production. This has been 3 Rounds with Jay on its new official night, Tuesday nights. From now on, it is 3 Rounds with Jay. As always, subscribe for more of this glorious content. There is much more coming on its way. It's not just going to be 3 Rounds with Jay and Jay at the movies. We've got some big things planned. I guarantee you that. My links to follow me and to like, to see what's going on my daily basis. Instagram is at the bottom, Twitter is at the bottom, Facebook is also at the bottom. For anything else, any other inquiries, please leave a comment below. Like, subscribe. I'll see you next week. Until then, be safe, enjoy, pump yourselves up. We've got a UFC Fight Night event coming up this Saturday. I'll see you next Tuesday. I love all of you. Have a good night.